I want to tell you about a new podcast called Amuse News. Publishing multiple days a week, Amuse News is your source for food news, interviews from around the food world, and more. On the show, we'll be engaging with food storytellers, from chefs to advocates to people working in the field, and many more. Find Amuse News wherever you get your podcasts. Amuse News is a destination for everyone who's looking for a new, insightful look into the world of food.
This episode is brought to you by Square. If you run a restaurant or business, Square has the tools to help you stay connected to customers, shift your business, and navigate this uniquely challenging time. Learn more at square.com/go/line.
Welcome to The Line. I'm your host, Eli Sussman. Sweetgreen began over a decade ago as a simple 500 square foot salad shack in Washington, D.C. Since then, it has grown to become a powerful brand with over 100 locations and a market value well over $1 billion. While previous generations of chains grew through vertical integration, low prices, and franchises, Sweetgreen in comparison focuses on localized agriculture and small farm relationships, organic greens, and higher-priced vegetable-based meals, and has no plans to franchise. Perhaps no fast casual food company has changed the way people interact with food so dynamically with such rapid innovation in such a short period of time. Sweetgreen has been at the forefront of fast casual chain growth by making ordering with an app, satellite pickup locations, and low human contact interactions at their restaurants normal for their customers. Sweetgreen has been vocal and innovative in the way it supports local farmers and has utilized celebrity chef culture to activate new product initiatives and excite its clientele with underrepresented items like kelp and squash. So based on these factors, their fervent following, and their ability to raise capital, is Sweetgreen in a better position than other rapidly expanding mid-sized fast casual brands? On today's episode, I'm joined by one of the three founders of Sweetgreen, Nic Jammet. Recorded while the nation was in full quarantine, we spoke to each other from our respective homes. I was in Brooklyn and Nic was in LA, where Sweetgreen now has its headquarters. So you may hear the audio falter a bit in the beginning of the episode, but it goes away pretty quickly, so no need to adjust it on your end. Our conversation was framed almost entirely through the lens of pre- and post-COVID, and we spoke about the early growth of Sweetgreen, partnering with your best friends, innovation and technology in the context of a fast casual restaurant, and what the future may hold for his company. So now, here's the interview with Nic Jammet of Sweetgreen. So I wanted to start off the discussion by talking about your partnership. You started Sweetgreen along with two of your closest buddies, and I want to ask you about the keys to a healthy business relationship. How do you guys create boundaries, create shared values and expectations for the company while being such good friends inside and outside of the business?
I would say what the partnership and the relationship I have with John and Nate is pretty special and pretty rare from what we've seen now over the last 13 years. And it's, one of the things I'm most grateful for, because it's made this journey of building a business and building a company and brand together that much more rewarding and to be that much more fun. And so super grateful for to have them. And, it comes down to a couple of things. It really comes down to, I think ultimately when we met, we bonded over, a few like-minded experiences where, our parents were all immigrants that came to this country that built a business, and we grew up in that entrepreneurial setting. And so we all grew up understanding the value of creating something with blood, sweat, and tears and building it yourself. And so that was something we all really believed in. And we also all had the same kind of problem in our lives of having nothing to eat, at the time in Georgetown when we were students that made sense to us. And so, we all started around this common purpose. And the reason why our partnership has gotten, that much stronger over the years is because we all have the same vision for what we want to build. We all believe the same thing for Sweetgreen. We all want to build the same business and company that has a certain impact. And so we have that common alignment around goals and vision. And I would say that's probably, the most important thing to start with. And then secondarily, I think the reason why our partnership works is that the three of us very early on recognized the value of humility in a relationship, the value of humility in building a company, but most importantly, the value of that humility in the partnership. And then the three of us are very complementary and different, but one of us is going to be right about something every day, and one of us is going to be wrong about something every day. And ultimately, when we're making decisions or deciding things or debating things, we make it very clear to keep the greater good of Sweetgreen in mind. So it's not about any one of our personal, who's right about something or whose idea it was. And very early on, we saw how important that was, not just for the business, but for our partnership. And so we have a lot of trust in each other, and we don't let our egos ever lead in the room. And so I think that has really helped us just build a stronger bond as partners, as friends, as colleagues.
Cool. Let me ask a little bit about just general inspiration and mentorship. As you've grown the company over several years now, I'm curious, where do you find inspiration? And that can be either from the culinary side or the business side. What publications, chefs, cookbooks, what interests you on the culinary and business side? And then also, is there a specific person in the business world that you look to as a professional mentor, that maybe that's the first person that you call outside of your Sweetgreen family when you've got a question that really needs some deep digging and deep thought?
So we draw a lot of inspiration from so many different places inside the food world and outside. And ultimately, there's so many chefs and farmers and entrepreneurs and other business owners that have created amazing products or businesses or stories, and we're constantly inspired by some of the great creators out there. On the food side, I would say, over the years, we've been incredibly influenced and inspired by Dan Barber, who ultimately, has helped us think differently about our relationship with food, the impact we can have not just on our customers, but the land and our farmers, and really thinking about the conversations we should be having and where we should place importance along the supply chain, and how we can really rethink our relationship, not just with our customers, but ultimately our producers and growers and farmers. So I think the stories he tells around food, through his writing, through his cooking, through his experiences at Blue Hill, is really, really one of the more inspiring people we've interacted with. And then, we get a lot of inspiration from some of the people that are just starting out, some of the chefs that are creating new concepts, some of the, our inspiration doesn't always come from, something that is at scale. Obviously we look around and look at businesses like Starbucks or Lululemon, or businesses that have taken their purpose and created scale and really done created some great impact in their business. But we get a lot of inspiration from the other end of the spectrum, the artists and creators and folks that are creating something new with a different perspective. And we're always, I always at least try to be very aware of what's new out there, and who's creating, who's really listening to the customer and the world as it changes so rapidly. So almost really trying to think about what's next. So I would say we're constantly inspired by people inside and outside of food, and at all different types of scale.
In terms of growing the company, from an outside perspective, it seems like a rapid ascent. You've obviously been inside of it for going on 13, 14 years now. So I'm sure for you, it feels more steady, but you now have, if I have this correct, 91 locations in about 8 different states. Is that right?
We are at 105 locations.
105 locations. So
yes, and adding a few more states this year. So I think we'll be at 10 or 11, 12, almost 12 states this year.
So you have over 100 locations, and even though some of them are closed right now, and many, if not all, are modified, I do still want to talk about growth of the brand. How did it work basically in those first couple years after you had a couple open? What was the growth strategy like to go from 1, 2 shops to 10? and also what growth period has been the most challenging for you? Maybe it was going from, a dozen to 50, or maybe it was going over that 100 mark. But curious which period really was the most difficult from a business perspective, and how that strategy has changed over time.
I would say over the years, I look back to some of the early growth periods, and when we started in Washington D.C. and really didn't travel to a new region till store number 10 in Philadelphia, and then number 20 was in New York. So really, the first large phase of our growth was in D.C., Virginia, Maryland, and really, planting some roots in that region and building a brand there. And so I look back to that, and that was some of the moments where we learned the most about our business, about scale, and really took our time to make sure that we could create, really start to hone in on the concept and our vision, and everything from how to scale a supply chain in a region to how to build a brand, before we really started to go wide across the country to other cities. And so I'm always really grateful for that period of our growth, because I think it allowed us to really stay focused. And I think sometimes I see, and maybe the world is different today than it was 10 years ago, but, I see sometimes people rush to grow outside of, their city and operating in other regions or across the country. And, we really took our time before we were ready for that. And I'm super grateful for that, because one of the biggest challenges is starting to operate a restaurant or an operation that is in a different city, where you can't just put your hands around it, basically. And so we really took our time there. I would say the hardest period of growth was really kind of, when we were in our, store restaurant around 50 up to 70 or 80, because you get to a point where you have to start to build real infrastructure and real systems. And some of the things that you were able to muscle before don't work, and they break. And, I think the rule they say is every time you triple your business, you have to break all the systems and rebuild them. So, we were at a point there where we had to really take a step back and really think about the business we wanted to build and how we were going to create the support and infrastructure to create scale there.
There's been a lot of discussion about Sweetgreen's rollout, and how, perhaps some people thought that it was slower or faster based on who you ask and what you read. I'm curious about plans way down the line in terms of being a potentially ubiquitous brand in America, on terms with a Subway or a Burger King. You get off the highway in most places in our country, you see the same usual suspects. Do you have a hope or a plan that one day you will expand to a level where there will be a Sweetgreen next to every gas station in every area of the United States, or is that not part of the plan at all?
Our vision for Sweetgreen is to be able to ultimately reach everyone with this type of food and to connect people to real food in a much broader way. Whether that means we open a certain number of restaurants, or what those restaurants or outposts look like, is part of the path ahead for us. Our business and the channels that we've built have changed so much, even in the last 2 years. We've gone from a business that had just restaurant retail to really building out our digital channels and our Outpost channel, which is a different product for us. So really thinking about how the business evolves through different channels it is something that we spend a lot of time on. So today I can't sit here and say we're going to have X number of units, but what I do know is that, our mission is to connect everyone to real food. And so we hope to be accessible to, everyone, every part of the country at some point. When that is, I don't know, but ultimately this journey for us is to help, people rethink their relationship with food and create access to it. And so whether we're in gas stations or on every corner, or, that part of the how we're going to do it is going to continue to evolve. And that's part of what, excites me about the future of Sweetgreen.
I want to ask you about what I assume was a very difficult time in the growth of the company, when there was some turmoil on your board and people left, and you and your co-founders had to stand side by side and really not back down and stand behind your vision for the company you had created. So Can you talk a little bit like that, just from the perspective of being someone who had started a brand and then people came in and disagreed with you, and you all had to basically say that you weren't going to back down, and that the way that you thought the brand should continue to go in the future was the vision that you wanted for the company? And how did that really go down, if you can speak about it in some detail? And also, how did that position you to be a future leader in the future of Sweetgreen?
It was an interesting moment. And along our journey, there's always been these moments where we've had to, and we do this quite often, where we sit back and really take stock of, all right, we know the broader vision, but how are we going to get there, and what do we have to build? And so we did have a moment in 2016, 2017, where the business was doing well and we were growing, and we had built this team that was allowing us to scale. But John, Nate, and I really believed that it was important to think about what we were building a little differently. We really needed to think about this digital connection with our customer, and we had started to build it, but ultimately really, really imagining the team we needed to build to execute the vision, and how we saw our customer changing, and how we wanted to ultimately connect with them outside of our restaurants or through these different channels. And it was less disagreement on the board. I mean, we've always been super grateful and fortunate to have a very supportive board and board members that, help us and support us, and have always been supportive of the vision. And, we had some folks on the leadership team that believed we should build it a different way. And that's okay. It was just different beliefs. And at a certain point, we knew that if we wanted to build the Sweetgreen for the future that we saw, that we knew was what we needed to do to be successful and to scale, that we just had to make sure there was alignment internally. And so, some of those leaders left, and we rebuilt a leadership team around that new vision. And so, it's okay if, I think what's important is that realizing that misalignment was there, and making sure that we shifted to get alignment. So there's nothing more disruptive than a leadership team that believes different things. So it was definitely a moment for us with a lot of lessons and a lot of growth. But ultimately we knew it was important for us to tackle that if we wanted to scale Sweetgreen the way we envisioned.
Something that I always consider as a small business owner is growing not only the business properly, but growing myself as a business person. And I think those are actually two separate things. I'm curious if you can offer any advice about how you personally over time have grown not only your business, but also yourself as a business person. And what would you say to someone who has a small business right now that's, either hoping to scale it over time, or just has a business and they themselves want to grow within it?
I'm a big believer in being constantly curious and just always learning. And no matter how big you are or how successful your business is, you have to be learning something new every day. And especially in this world where the variables are changing pretty quickly, in general, even pre-COVID, the world and the customer was changing pretty quickly. So if you're not constantly curious and asking the right questions and poking your own business model and asking yourself, how can we disrupt our own business model, then I think that's where complacency sets in. And so personally, whether it's, talking to other entrepreneurs or reading books or listening to podcasts, I'm always so curious to see how other people are building things and how they're attacking problems. And so it's really important to have that sense of curiosity and lifelong learning. We started Sweetgreen as 21-year-old entrepreneurs that knew nothing. So it was really important for us from the beginning to have that sense of curiosity and thirst for knowledge. So we've tried to maintain that as we've continued to scale.
We, of course, have to talk about COVID and how it's impacting the entire hospitality industry and of course, all commerce up and down. So to me, it feels like Sweetgreen may actually be the rare food business to emerge from this in a relatively strong position. I say that because you have done many initiatives over the last several years, and you've embraced technology in a way where you have robust online ordering, you have pickup systems that are already basically no contact that people are familiar with. So I'm wondering, Do you feel like Sweetgreen is positioned well to emerge from COVID? And can you speak to how your model will be different after all of this?
So many of the parts of our vision and the things we were building pre-COVID, really pushing our business, pushing the digital channels in our business, thinking about our menu and product and how we can broaden it. All those things, we feel more strongly about today than even pre-COVID. And so I feel fortunate that the things we were working on and the parts of our business we were investing in are now more important than ever. Our business has been dramatically affected by COVID. And so it's forced us to really think about, make some tough decisions and think about how we want to evolve our business, and more importantly, the time frame, the speed at which we want to create that evolution. So it's really, aside from some of the crisis mode that we're constantly in this past 2 months, John, Nate, and I have spent a lot of time in this moment, kind of going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, if we were to start from scratch, if we were to build Sweetgreen, today, what would we build? How would we think about it differently? And there's this moment today where we do get to move, quicker on some of that evolution. And so part of that has been exciting, but at the same time, it's been a really tough moment for the business. And it's forced us to evolve pretty quickly, whether it's, we launched a whole new menu that we were planning to launch next year, and we fast tracked that for a 30-day launch, which to roll something out across 100 restaurants in 10 states was a challenge for us. But our team came together and executed really impressively. So it's forced us to just really double down on certain things and rethink our business model and push towards, again, this vision we had, but probably pushing towards parts of it a little quicker than we thought it would come to life.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stick with us here on Heritage Radio.
This episode is brought to you by Square. We all know that this is an incredibly challenging time for our friends running restaurants and small food businesses. With social distancing in place, people are staying home and eating in, and restaurants have had to pivot to pickup and delivery only. HRN would usually be recording our podcast from our studio inside Roberta's. But since they've had to close their dining room, they've ramped up their frozen pizza production, set up a wine and grocery shop, and seen their delivery orders skyrocket. Like Roberta's, many restaurants have been changing offerings day by day as they figure out how to best serve their customers. If you run a restaurant or a small business, Square has the tools to help you adapt. One of these tools is the Square online store. It lets you set up a free online ordering page with curbside pickup and local delivery so you can keep customers safe. You can deliver orders yourself or integrate with delivery partners. Its Order Hub lets you manage all your incoming orders in one place, no matter which delivery partners you choose to use. Square has all the tools to help you stay connected to customers no matter where they are. See everything that's available by visiting square.com/go/line.
Welcome back to The Line here on Heritage Radio. I'm your host, Eli Sussman. Today on the show, one of the founders of Sweetgreen, Nic Jammet, talking about the brand that he built with two of his best friends from college, and of course, what's happening now that COVID has overtaken the entire industry. Yesterday, it was announced that Twitter is letting its employees work from home indefinitely. I think it's safe to say that there will be other companies that will probably allow their employees to work from home. So I wanted to ask you about it in the context of your Outpost program, and as well as your locations that are in close proximity to major office centers. So how are you and the rest of your team addressing the fact that if people can work from home, that may alter your real estate strategy, as well as just how you interpret what a lunch rush used to be versus what it could be in the future?
I would say there's still so much unknown about how people are going to work in the future. What I do know and believe is that people will return to offices in some way. But I do believe how people work and how many people are in the office and how much time they spend in the office will change and will evolve. And so as part of this evolution and rethinking our business is rethinking everything from the menu to our real estate strategy to our channel strategy, and just moving quickly. Our Outpost program obviously was very heavily concentrated on offices. And so when offices started to shut down, we overnight pivoted that team, within 48 hours, made the decision just to move that team to feeding hospitals and hospital workers who are on the front lines, battling this every day. And we realized that we had the infrastructure, we had, kitchens and the sales team and logistics team and all these things that we could leverage to create that impact pretty quickly. And so, within this week or next week, we'll reach almost 250,000 meals that we've served for free to these hospital workers and medical staff. And so for us, it felt good to be able to make that pivot and do it quickly to have an impact. But again, as we think about the future of all of our channels and how people work and whether they're working from home or however that changes, our business will have to shift around it. So it's definitely going to, there's still a lot of unknown ahead, but we're learning a little bit more every day and starting to make changes and plan for it.
One of the amazing things about Sweetgreen is your support of local farms. It's always been at the center of the business. One of the things that has been widely promoted is how when you open in various regions, you create these local relationships. I'm wondering about plans for the future for even greater integration as you continue to expand. What are plans for maybe your own farms, perhaps, or your own production facilities, or is that not something that that Sweetgreen is really considering?
Today we remain very focused on how we can support the farmers, producers, and growers in our regions and this network we've built. I believe being in the food business can be a very hard business. In the restaurant business, it can be challenging. Being a farmer is even harder. And so for us, we see part of our mission and purpose is to be a partner and a counterpart to those farmers that are, treating, supporting the land and doing growing all these incredible products the right way, to be a great partner to them and ultimately help their business. So today we remain very focused on that and how we can, as we scale, continue to be a great partner to small, medium, and large size farmers and producers that are doing things the right way. And ultimately, so much of our food ethos and supply chain ethos comes back to not just quality product and the farming practices that these growers and producers are utilizing, but so much of it also comes back to our belief around just climate and just making sure that we're trying to make decisions that are as climate positive as possible. And so working with farmers and growers that are treating the soil the right way and growing the right things. And ultimately for us, if we can be a partner that grows with them and allows their business to thrive, then that's really what success looks like for us.
I want to ask a little bit about the government response. As a whole, we've seen a sort of a lack of empathy and compassion, I would say, coming from the government, and just a lack of understanding about how businesses in the hospitality industry work, everything from a 10-seater independently owned business all the way up to a Sweetgreen. I'm not sure they really get it. The Presidential Advisory Board was also totally lacking in diversity. So I'm curious, what have been your personal thoughts on the government response, and if you were able to be in a position to be a part of that advisory board? What do you think you would say? What would be some things that you would put forward as major initiatives?
Well, I think what's clear is that whether it's the government or the consumer base out there, if people really understand how hard hit the restaurant industry really has been affected. And so I think understanding that so many of these restaurants or chefs and so many of these businesses might not exist after this, and that's how serious this is. So thinking about support, not just in, I know that obviously with PPP there was an initial amount of support around protecting team members and hourly workers around their paychecks, but really thinking about how we can protect the industry, in a greater way to make sure that it's still standing at the end of this. And part of the problem is no one really knows how long this is going to go, or how quickly business will come back, whether it's when restaurants feel it's safe to open, or when they'll be allowed to reopen, or when it's also different regionally. So I think it's a pretty complex thing to figure out pretty quickly. But what I do know is that, and part of how we thought about this is really wanting to make sure that we can make decisions that support our hourly workforce and give them as much opportunity as possible. So many of them live paycheck to paycheck, and so when this disruption happens, it's really detrimental. So, I think I'm looking forward to hopefully continued and more aggressive support of the restaurant industry from, as we continue down this crisis.
I want to talk a little bit, just kind of building on the last bit you just said, which is that restaurant industry employees have always been pretty much paycheck to paycheck, and healthcare has been a major concern for the vast majority of United States citizens, but also within the industry. It's not something that restaurants have often been able to offer, just based on profit margins and the structure of the businesses. So in your position as one of the leaders of Sweetgreen, as you're sitting around kind of maybe reimagining what the future of business will look like, what types of conversations are you having, and what are you hoping might be able to come out of it for your employees, and also for all employees that work in the hospitality space after we do reemerge and maybe things can reopen?
It's a great question. I think most importantly, just looking at stability in their paycheck, and making sure that they have confidence that, they know their paycheck is going to come next week, and the businesses that they are working for have a chance to survive. Ultimately, I think there's greater beliefs around making sure that there's fair benefits, whether it's health insurance or things like parental leave. One of our big beliefs and big investments last year for us and our team was around a really strong parental leave program. And we announced this a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, and it's been an incredible part of our team members' life at Sweetgreen. Is 5-month fully paid parental leave for everyone in our corporate office, everyone in our restaurants, hourly workers. That whether you're a father, mother, adoptive parent, foster parent, giving them the time to really prioritize family and to not have to worry about their paycheck. So that's been an incredible benefit that we've invested in personally. And so I know that there's different opinions on what around federal or state level, or what support exists there. But for us, we felt that as a business, we wanted to make that investment for our team members and anyone that becomes part of Team Sweetgreen.
Sweetgreen has been one of the earliest adopters and proponents of technology in the restaurant space, and you've done a very good job integrating it and making it feel fairly seamless for folks to engage with your restaurant using this technology. Now you're hearing even more talk about online ordering and no contact delivery. I'm curious if you can share any of the theoreticals or actual initiatives that you've put into place or are going to put into place upon reopening that will embrace technology and may change the way that people interact with Sweetgreen and other restaurants in the future.
During this crisis time, we have been spending a lot of time just trying to think about what the new normal is going to be, how the Sweetgreen experience needs to evolve, both physically and digitally. Thinking about every touch point in our restaurants, from how you open a door to how you pick up your food, how you interact with the cashiers. And again, we're fortunate that we invested so heavily in the digital channels in our business. We actually launched our native Sweetgreen delivery app in January. So very fortunate with that we made that investment, and with the timing there, that's really helped us through this. But we've definitely looked at every single part of our Sweetgreen experience and are making decisions around how to evolve it, about how to really think about the pickup experience differently, how to make it really contactless, rethinking the digital journey on our app, and how to really think about giving customers options around how they want to transact, how they want to pick up their food. And so, it's, I would say it's many, many small changes that we're making in the restaurant, from safety procedures to cleaning procedures to signage to queuing to wayfinding. Really, again, just rethinking the whole customer journey in our restaurants and on our app.
Sweetgreen changes a lot, even year over year, especially relative to a place like a Chipotle or a Burger King, McDonald's, where it's like it's kind of been the same since they've opened. But you guys have done 2.0 and 3.0, and I'm wondering if you've been talking about meal kits and provisions and increasing those aspects of your business where maybe Sweetgreen isn't just a place where you come in and get a singular bowl of salad or a plate of food, but there's other touch points and opportunities to interact with the brand moving forward. What might that aspect of the business look like moving forward?
In this time, we've definitely thought about so many different, evolutions of Sweetgreen, whether it's on the product side or business model side. So, the team is constantly exploring different versions. Again, I would say more than ever, we've always been committed to pretty rapid evolution and testing things. And so we definitely want to stay focused, but at the same time, speed up that evolution, whether it's broadening our menu or, again, thinking about the digital experience. There will definitely be some exciting changes ahead that we've been pushed to make even quicker. So, as kind of serial entrepreneurs, we're constantly looking at new ideas, but at the same time, as we scale, we try to stay focused. So it's kind of a balance we try to strike around innovation and evolution, but also focus and execution.
Like everybody else, you've been at home, you've been quarantined. I imagine you've been doing quite a bit of home cooking. Is any of that sort of filter back into the restaurant as R&D, or are you and your partner just cooking just because you're at home and you want to sustain yourself, or are you always kind of thinking about what you eat in terms of whether or not it could maybe be a fit for your business?
Great question. I would say mostly we're cooking just to, to feed ourselves and for the experience of it. Our culinary team has been hard at work during this time, again, constantly thinking about some menu evolutions and making some quick changes to our menu for this year and thinking about 2021 and starting to test some plans for that. So, I'm constantly thinking about it at home. I'm, cooking a broad array of things. Been cooking a lot out of the Alison Roman book. Actually, is one that I've really doubled down on in this COVID time. So just trying to explore a bit more and make some new things every week.
In terms of restaurants, not your own, but restaurants that just are like neighborhood joints, and I know that you're friendly with a lot of chefs, and you're obviously a big eater. I wonder, what are your thoughts on the restaurant experience and how the quote unquote new normal is going to be detrimental to that? One of the joys of going to a restaurant is having it be full and the ambiance and being able to interact with your server and all that. How are you feeling personally about all the restaurants that you love and the fact that they might disappear, or even if they come back, they could be fundamentally changed for forever?
I would say overall that gives me a lot of anxiety because, so much of, I really enjoy going out to these restaurants and being part of that community and experiencing the hospitality. I don't believe eating in restaurants is going away. I believe there's a couple months or a year now where it will change and some of the experiences maybe your table's a little further apart. Maybe the server is wearing a mask. Maybe there's, I think there's going to obviously be clear changes around behavior. I don't believe the idea of hospitality and community and dining in restaurants will go away. So I think it's going to be part of an evolution. And, I've seen a lot of restaurateurs that are quick to think about how to evolve their business model and their product, and whether they're shifting to delivery or meal kits or pantry. It's been exciting to see some chefs, pivot quickly. And so I definitely am longing for the days when I can, get back into some of my favorite dining rooms. And again, I do think that will return, but I really hope that I hope that reality comes quickly. And again, it may look and feel a bit different, but I do think that the idea of hospitality is not dead, not going away.
One of the really interesting impact programs that Sweetgreen has worked on is involvement with the school cafeteria. And I know that it was just a pilot program to a certain extent, but with schools closed right now and kids at home and that not really being an option, if you could just still speak a little bit to what that program was, and when schools come back online, is there a plan to continue that or grow that program in any way?
Absolutely. It was a program that, we've been working in schools for, say, almost 10 years now. We had a program called Sweetgreen in Schools that has grown and evolved. And really the latest iteration of that was a really exciting partnership with Food Corps around reimagining the cafeteria experience for kids in schools. And so that is something that we are excited to continue. It was a longer term commitment we made to really understanding how we can ultimately change the experience for kids when they're in the cafeteria and get them excited about the right kind of foods. And so that's something we're very excited to continue after this when schools open up again.
I want to close on this question, which is, I know it's going to be a grand hypothetical, but still, if you could either leave Sweetgreen either in the hands of course, those you trust, or maybe happily sell it, allowing you to walk away and feel satisfied with what you've accomplished, what would you do next? What do you think the next chapter would be of your life if there ever was a post Sweetgreen?
It's hard for me to answer that because even though we've been doing this for 13 years, I still feel like we're very much in the beginning of our journey. And I look at our mission and our purpose, and it's a pretty big one. And it's, it's hopefully a generational vision, something that is going to take a long time to accomplish, but that we can have great impact along the way. And so even though it feels like we're, at a certain size and that we've scaled, looking at how big the opportunity is, it feels like we're still very early on in our journey and chapter. And so, I wake up every single day excited about growing and reaching more people with our type of food and ultimately helping people change their relationship with food. So it's what I think about every day, and I think I'll be doing for quite a while. So again, it's I feel very fortunate to be able to wake up every day and do this. And even in a time like this, when the world is changing and variables are changing, I think, connecting people to real food is more important than ever. So something that I remain very excited about every day.
Nic, thanks for taking some time to talk with me. The Line is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners just like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join the HRN family by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.
Hey, are you hungry? Well, you're in luck. Meat and 3 is back for season 16. I'm Taylor Early, and we've got a whole new batch of reporters I am so excited to introduce you to.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Fisher.
Asha McElroy.
Sam Girardi.
Jessica Gingrich.
Hannah from Wisconsin.
I'm a swing dancing audio engineer.
I am a future registered dietitian nutritionist.
I'm from New York, and I love rice and beans.
My favorite food of all time is a shrimp burrito.
I love watermelon.
We've also got a bonus podcast for you called Behind the Internship. 3 of our reporters will take you along to show how they developed stories for this very show, Meat and 3.
Hi, I'm Danielle Flitter, a plant-based chef from Philadelphia, living in Mexico City.
I'm Sophia Hooper. I'm a bartender based in Portland, Maine.
My name is Addison Austin Liu. I am a chef and food journalist from Salt Lake City, Utah, and my favorite food is Peruvian.
Rice and beans.
Hand-drawn noodle soup.
So tune in to enjoy a square meal for your ears. And I hope you saved a little room for dessert.